Hi everyone! In this video we will solve a rational equation that results in a quadratic equation. Solve negative 2x over x minus 3 minus 2 divided by x minus 5 equals negative 4 divided by x squared minus 8x plus 15. The first thing we need to do is find the factors of the denominator for our last one, since it's not factored out. Since this is in the form of a equals 1, we just need to factor the last term, c, and so 15 is 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Our sign is positive here, which means that they will be the same. And the first one is negative, so they'll all be negative. And we need negative 8, so we'll use negative 3 and negative 5. Let's go ahead and rewrite that. So we have x squared minus 3x minus 5x, replacing that 8x, plus 15. And we'll factor by grouping our first two and our second two. The greatest common factor for the first is x, so we get x minus 3, and the next one is negative 5, leaving us with x minus 3. Then we factor these two terms. Factoring out the x minus 3, we end up with x minus 5. So our denominator for the last term in this equation is x minus 3, x minus 5. Now we need to find the lowest common denominator so that we can multiply it to everything and get rid of those fractions. The lowest common denominator needs an x minus 3 and an x minus 5, and it looks like we're all done. That's all we needed. So let's multiply every single side, both sides, by x minus 3, x minus 5, and over here x minus 3, and x minus 5. We'll have to use the distributive property to multiply it into both terms. On the right side, though, x minus 3 times x minus 5 divided by x minus 3 times x minus 5 cancels. So on our right side, we just have negative 4. On our left side, we're going to need to cancel out a few things. X minus 3 times x minus 5 divided by x minus 3 cancels, x minus 3. So we have negative 2x times x minus 5. And again, we're multiplying this in with the distributive property. So we have x minus 3 times x minus 5. And we will cancel, x minus 5 cancels. And so we have minus 2 times x minus 3. Now we can go ahead and do the distributive property with these ones, giving us negative 2x squared plus 10x minus 2x plus 6 equals negative 4. Now let's go ahead and combine like terms. We have these here, and we need to add the 4 to both sides to combine those like terms. So we have negative 2x squared plus 8x plus 10 equals 0. And now we need to factor this quadratic. Since all of them have a 2 or they are even, let's go ahead and factor out a negative 2. So we have a positive x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Now this quadratic is in the form of a equals 1. So we can just factor our negative 5. So we have negative 5. And the factors are 1 and 5. And we have a negative. So one of that, they will be different signs, one positive, one negative. And since it's negative 4, that means that the larger of the two will be negative and the smaller will be positive. Adding those together does make negative 4. So we can replace that and rewrite it as, let's bring the whole thing over to the right side. So we have negative 2, and we're replacing this with x squared minus, or plus 1x minus 5x minus 5, and this still equals 0. Factoring by grouping the first two and the second two. The greatest common factor for the first two is x. So we have x plus 1. The greatest common factor for the next two is negative 5. So we have x plus 1. And then the greatest common factor between these two terms is the binomial x plus 1. And then we're left with x minus 5. And don't forget we have a negative 2 still. And this equals 0. Now we can use the zero product property by setting all of these factors equal to 0. Negative 2 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. and x minus 5 equals 0. X negative 2 does not equal 0, so this is not a solution. And we can subtract 1 here so that we get x equals negative 1. And add 5 here so we get x equals 5. It looks like we have two answers, x equals negative 1 and x equals 5. However, because this was a rational expression or equation, we do need to verify that either of these solutions do not make our denominator 0 or undefined. So let's go back and look if we put in negative 1 into any of our factors. It's looking kind of messy, so I'm just going to take all of our denominator factors up here and bring them down to see if either of our answers will make them negative. All of our factors, oh, they're even listed in the LCD, so let's just bring that down. We have x minus 3 and x minus 5. If we substitute negative 1 in for either of these, negative 1, we end up with negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4, and negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. So x equals negative 1 is good to go. We can use that one. Now let's go ahead and try x equals 5. We'll put it into both of the factors, x minus 3 and x minus 5. And if we substitute it in, we get 5 minus 3 and 5 minus 5. 5 minus 3 is 2, but 5 minus 5 is 0. This means that I would be dividing by 0 and the rational expression would be undefined. So we cannot use 5 as an answer. So our only answer is x equals negative 1, and we're all done.